That's us.
Good afternoon, collectors. Welcome to Leighton's Loft. Thank you for joining us. You can find us each and every Wednesday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We talk about all things having to do with the hobby, having to do with being a dad, and everything in between. So thank you for joining us today. The hobby has a lot of news, gossip, going on just in the last 24 hours. Yesterday was our first inaugural episode of Trading Card Therapy, which was at 12:30
Hmm.
Eastern Time, Lou. And just 2 hours or so later, the news came out about PWCC and eBay. So
Yep.
we'll be talking about that today on the Loft. Um, it's pretty wild out there in terms of everyone. What's up, Jim? Um, Everyone is making content about it and talking about it. And what I find fascinating is I bet you out of all of those people, very few of them are actually on the inside and know anything factual, or to be fair, anything more than you or I know
Right.
with what that email was posted publicly. What's up, Brad? And the only reason why I say that is from my own experience. I'll share a collection we buy or something that we'll do, and people will say, "Hey, Late, I heard this." I'm like, "No, no, that definitely didn't happen because I know I was the one who bought it."
Yep.
Or whatever,
Yep.
whatever the case may be. Um, Thanks, Rocco, appreciate it. One thing I wanted to stress, Lou, we've never really done this so formally on Leighton's Loft, but I think it's going to help fuel content for Leighton's Loft and Trading Card Therapy. And what I like to encourage people to do, Lou, and you always share my email, is whether it be it's you or me, it really doesn't matter. But
Hmm.
I'd like people to reach out on a weekly basis, whether it be just after the show, because that's when it's fresh in your mind, or even during the show. And even though we may not get to your question during the show, it's something that we can cover in subsequent shows. So now that we have a little bit of an extra platform with Trading Card Therapy, it's a little bit more, let's say, card focused, laser focused there. We
Right.
might answer it on there. If it's a little bit more of a, easygoing, fun, maybe dilemma question, what would you do? We certainly can bring it to our community here in Leighton's Loft. But nonetheless, believe me, I can come up with plenty of things to talk about, whether it be for 60 or 90 minutes, frankly, many more hours. I just don't personally have the time. But I do appreciate you folks making the time for me here today, as well as yesterday and each and every week. I hope that you feel as though that I and the team here at Leighton's Loft with Lou and now Trading Card Therapy and, of course, Vintage Breaks and Just Collect being the sponsors, as well as Otia Sports, that we're bringing value to the community. And one of the ways that we're going to do that, Lou, is talking about what's going on at PWCC or what people maybe think is going on versus, listen, I'm living, the industry every day. And so from someone who's actually used PWCC, what does it mean for me?
Yeah.
So on and so forth. I did want to share, once again, we're now several weeks into our new style of giveaway, and I think it's going pretty well. We're going to ask a trivia question at the end of our show / the beginning of our Vintage Breaks stream,
Yes.
youtube.com/Vintage Breaks. Just at the end of the show, once again, beginning of the next show, i.e. the Vintage Breaks stream, we'll ask a trivia question, and the only way to win is to be the first person to answer it correctly. And today we're going to give away a 2018 Topps Chrome Sapphire box spot, which is 125 bucks on the site. More importantly, Lou, if you want to buy a Sapphire box, like I
Yeah.
bet you it would cost you 8 to 10,000. What's
Really?
up, Ken?
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
like, getting a spot in it, you're sharing in the community of opening, of it, and obviously you have your fingers crossed. You're going to get something real, real
Yep.
juicy.
Excellent.
Uh, Super pumped about that. So once again, folks, if you have any weekly, comments or feedback or questions you'd like to see discussed on either platform here on Leighton's Loft or on Tuesdays, Trading Card Therapy, please email me directly, leighton@justcollect.com. Thanks for putting it up there, Lou. So without further ado, I saw Chris Coe. Thanks for joining us, Chris. Did he have a comment about PWCC? I think I saw PWCC in there, so I wanted to see
Yeah.
if you had something to say, because I wanted to start with PWCC today, because I figured we could end up talking about that for a while.
This is a great
Um,
point. This is the basic point, I think, and it speaks to the vintage brakes community in my mind.
yeah, absolutely. So as Chris Coe so eloquently puts and succinctly, PWCC just reinforces the need and value in trusted parties. And so, folks, I hope that you can see just from the little bit of time that I share with you folks on a weekly basis, and that you, if you're able to join me, whether it be live or later on, you listen to it, in the podcast world, um, that's what I'm trying to do for folks, in particular with the shows, is to add value from a trusted party, meaning myself representing Just Collect, myself representing Vintage Breaks. And representing our community. Like, I get that many or some of you may not ever buy a card from Just Collect or a spot from Vintage Breaks, but if you're more informed as a consumer, as a collector, as a hobbyist, I sincerely believe that this industry will be alive and well, not only for Crosby and his generation and Crosby 6, for those who don't know, but for the generations to come after that. And I certainly don't mean to sound, corny or hokey. I'm being sincere in the sense of, I absolutely would love to play second base for the Yankees, shortstop, if they really want me to move over. Um, Seeing that how that didn't unfold the way that I would have preferred, this is a really good second place for me, and I hope to, if you will, water the flowers enough and provide enough, of an infrastructure at our respective efforts at our companies, and for our communities of our companies, um, to instill that trust, as Chris is talking about, because it's vital. Um, and sometimes, almost like, and let's be honest, right? I was hearing this recently. I don't know if it was radio or it was some sort of biography, whatever the case may be. But like, it's whether it be you're in a kid, Lou, or you're an adult. Isn't it so interesting how? And by the way, this is no. I'm not throwing any accusations. I'm just merely talking here. In terms of trusted parties, like, isn't it so much easier to just ask for forgiveness later, and if
Yeah.
something happens, right, like, then
Yeah.
you start to talk about it. But it's really difficult as a kid because you just maybe aren't mature enough, you don't know. And as an adult, because you are mature enough and you do know, and you know that it's difficult, but yet, no matter the age, it is really hard to, to be, if you will, straightforward and a trusted party the way that Chris is suggesting. And so,
Right.
I myself work very hard at that as an individual. My team can only attest to that, at VB and Just Collect, because they're around me more than most. But hopefully, we, like I said, as two separate entities, even though they're companies are made up of people. And I found, especially in the beginning of Vintage Breaks, Lou, that by not only me being there for the streams, and I'm talking about the days of Mikey and, really crazy early days, um, uh, you know, it was instilling trust in people, that if you had a question about a vintage pack or a vintage card that came out of a vintage pack, and granted, I can't be there every day now, but I'm still very much involved in every facet of what's going on. Doesn't mean that mistakes can't be made.
Right.
And so, once again, to kind of circle back here and come back to center in regards to trust, um, and I mean this sincerely, I think the saddest thing is, and I heard someone else say this very eloquently, but I think it's twofold. One, there's very real families that could be affected by what PWCC is going through, meaning
Yep.
not having the ability to list on eBay, and maybe listing on their own platform, but right, nothing's guaranteed.
Right.
Um, and then two, right, I've been very proud of what's been happening, not just with Vintage Breaks, not just with Just Collect, not just with our communities, but let's take that next step above, right? Golden's acquired, PSA goes private, all sorts of investments are happening in companies like Alt, and collectible and fractional share companies are becoming hot, meaning like we're becoming not only cool, but we're in the news. And Lou,
Right.
we're not only in the news, but we're in the news for the right things.
Yep.
And so, what's disappointing to me is, and I understand that there could be PR plays involved, or posturing involved. So believe me, I'm suggesting I have any more information than any of you folks in regards to PWCC. But I would say that it's a sad day for me, who really almost a lifelong hobbyist, right? I started collecting cards when I was 8 or 9. I preferred to play baseball. It didn't happen. Here I sit today with Karma Records, shirt on, hang out, working from
Yeah.
the loft, doing our show here and our thing on Wednesdays at 4:30. You can find us on Facebook, of course, on the Vintage Breaks Network as well, in the podcast sphere out there. Hopefully you enjoy our content, and thank you for joining us. So anyway, getting back
I
to,
think you and I
go
had a
ahead, Lou.
discussion at the beginning of this when you and I first started working together, and the discussion revolved around part of the frequency of doing a show like the Loft or Card Talk Therapy that you're doing now with some of these things is beyond the information. It's more about getting people to trust the person they're dealing with, or get them to, in my mind, and I think I told you this, it's just getting people to know you, because once they get to know you, they're going to trust you. And people, the Vintage Breaks community is real. Everybody knows each other, everybody trusts each other, everybody loves each other here. We have a lot of fun together. And in this business, which is becoming more and more the Wild West because of, hey, look, there's a lot of money in this business right now, and a lot of money changing hands, and you don't always know what you're dealing with. It's certainly not regulated. It's certainly not looked in that tightly. There's a card and you pay the price, you don't pay the price. And it's important, as Chris said, to know who you're dealing with and be able to trust who you're dealing with.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I wanted everyone to take away from this today, and notice how we're not talking about bonuses and buying spots and anything like that. But please, I encourage you that, as much as eBay can be a wonderful platform to deal with, you certainly see the spat they're having with PWCC, and I'm being light and calling it a spat.
Yeah.
Um, but let's be real here. If you can connect with people through the Vintage Breaks Buy Sell Trade group on Facebook, you all as a community are going to be better off for it. Number one is very easy. You're going to save a few bucks and a few shekels on the fees if you're dealing with each other responsibly and transparently. You're going to be able to pass those savings on to the other users. Two, it's nice because you're no longer just a listing, right? It's, hey, Cody Cheek is selling a card for 16 bucks. It's not XYZ123 user from Idaho. And by the way, I don't know that he's from Idaho. Just
Yeah.
saying this, and like the guy wants $12 plus $4 shipping. And I'm like, yeah, it's fair, but whatever. I'm like, oh no, I'm buying the card from Cody. That's cool.
Yeah.
At the national, it wasn't easy because Chris Coe has fine tastes. But I really tried to. He's been so gracious with the community, like with giveaways and his own knowledge, meaning analytically. I really try to make it a point to get him a card, and I don't mean buy him a card on my own money. To be very clear, he paid for it. I didn't make any money on it, but I wanted to find a card for him that he was going to enjoy, that because he wasn't able to make it, that he'd forever, or not forever, but for a long time cherish. And so we were able to do that. And so I started reading about this guy Beckenbauer in soccer, and I certainly don't say it lightly. Thanks, Chris. But like that meant something to me. I know it sure as heck meant something to Chris. And so this is what I'm talking about. Forge relationships on our message boards. Even if you come over to the Vintage Break stream, right, where, tonight, like I said, we're going to go live at 5:30 Eastern time till, I guess, about, what day is it, Wednesday? Till about 1 a.m. Eastern time, Vintage Breaks North and Vintage Breaks West with Sir Charles. But you don't have to buy anything to enjoy 15 minutes,
Right.
to enjoy an hour with our community, because if you do it tactfully, and if you do it respectfully, you can ask, especially if you're a newbie, I have some questions about cards, or I'm hearing about this buy sell trade group, or there's some decent deals sometimes, or there's giveaways. Like, what do I do?
It's funny. You're going to find this funny, but what I equate this business to in the time I've been in it a lot is like a mechanic when your car's broken. You don't trust everybody. It's really great to find a place that you trust. They're not going to give you the cheapest price, but they're not going to rail you. They're not going to fix things that you don't need fixed. They're not going to gouge you. That's gold, having a mechanic like that. And in this business, it's the same thing. Having someone you can do business with, especially with the vast inventory of vintage breaks and the vast resources of vintage breaks. Plus, everybody in this community knows J5, knows S10, knows everybody here. We're all friends, and it's a unique experience in the industry, I think.
No, we're very proud of it, and sincerely thank each and every person who's here today. I'll bring up this funny thing in a minute, but it was interesting, and I don't want to name names, but if certainly, you guys can do your own research and figure it out, or you guys and girls. Um, in terms of, like, I heard another, if you will, breaker come on, let's just say somewhere else, and I don't want to, because I don't want to spell it out, but like literally the first thing they led with was they're the cheapest.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, the problem with being the cheapest is it's really, really hard to grow your company.
Yep.
And for example, invest in people, invest in advertising,
Yep.
invest in shows such as this. Because I mean, and by the way, folks, we're just doing this to be transparent. Like, I love Lou, and Lou loves us here, but I got to give the guy at least a ham sandwich to come join me, right? Once a week and do the work. And so, meaning, like, folks, it costs wampum. It takes money and foresight to not only run a business but to grow a business. And so, I just found it interesting. Listen, you can certainly not only ask me any questions, but you can do your own research on any respective break and decide for yourself about pricing and such. But you're never going to hear me say that we have the cheapest brakes.
Right.
I believe we have the largest inventory of brakes available. And obviously, to do that,
Yep.
you can put two and two together. That takes a fair amount of money.
Money's
And
got to be
so,
laid out. Yeah.
for me, you couldn't necessarily be the biggest in terms of inventory and then also necessarily offer the cheapest brake and no bonus. And so it's just our style. But my point is bringing it back to center. You decide for yourself as an actual Break-A-Maniac, right? Because I'm not naive to think that you couldn't buy brakes from either one or several other breakers. But you may come back here for the camaraderie. You may come back here for the knowledge that we can share. You may come back here for the bonuses. You may come back here because this is ridiculous, by the way. Gilmore now has taken Monopoly to a new level. He dresses up as the fucking guy with the mustache.
Oh, God.
He doesn't just, and by the way, the game is really great. He's done a great job, in terms of like designing it and implementing it. But he dresses up now as the guy.
Does he have the monocle?
He's got the hat. He's
Yep.
got a mustache, and I think he's got glasses.
Okay. We gotta get him a monocle though, because that guy's a monocle guy.
Well, you know what? I think that's going to be a perfect holiday gift.
I like it.
Anyway, kind of getting back to PWCC, and there's a particular place I wanted to start. I personally would love to offer this service. I know I've talked about this with Chris Coe, Chris Gilmore, J5, some others as well. But I do want to comment about the vault services that are offered by PWCC.
Yeah.
Vault services, and I don't know if they exactly have the same costs and such. They're also offered by Alt. They're also offered by Golden Auctions. And I know this for a fact because I bought a small percentage of a very expensive Martin Luther King signed document with Darren Ravel. It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
He's storing it. I asked him where he's going to put it. He's storing it off-site. I believe the facility is in Newark, and the place has like hundreds of millions of dollars of art, if not more. And it's a 24-hour facility.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that as we're getting into the PWCC discussion, once again, Lou, please interrupt me at any time if you see comments coming up about it that you'd like to kind of interject and talk about PWCC. But the first thing I wanted to say is the vault, while absolutely very cool and interesting, to our industry, it's very new.
Yeah.
And so do your research, right? I'm not saying that vaults are good. I'm not saying that they're bad. I understand some of the advantages. We could have a whole show just on that. And I know that there's be a wonderful added value to offer to the vintage break community. I talked to Gilmore about it the last couple of days. And like, that's just, we can't do that with best practice. I mean, we just can't do that, Lou. That's not what we're going to be able to accomplish and do it well.
That's a completely separate business right there.
Absolutely. But I certainly understand the need for it. And what I would say is this, unless, and please take this for whatever it's worth, but unless there's tax ramifications for you, and I get it, for some people, very real.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that, I personally love stuff. I like having it around me. I like having it in my house. I like having it in my office. I can tell you that my lovely wife, Julie, does not like having it in the house. She's much more happy with it in the office.
Yep.
But the reality of it is in terms of PWCC, like break down the business. I know everything was tied together, but you're going to be able to sell stuff on eBay either with Rick Probstein, with Ted, NJ something or other, TNT North New Jersey, and there's other people like. Maybe it's going to give other people the opportunity. And let's be honest here, I don't think PWCC is going to lay down. I think that they're going to actively try to move everything over to their new platform on their existing website. And only time will tell what will happen. But if you notice how I haven't spent a lot of time or almost any, this will be the first time I'm mentioning the word shill bidding, meaning maybe they did something having to do with it, maybe they didn't. But for me, I would rather spend my breath and my energy, especially, and I'm not a big customer, in fact, very small customer of PWCC, but I would rather spend my breath and my energy talking about other options and things that you could do in the interim, and a little bit about the vault and how you could actually go outside of our industry. I don't know if folks realize this. Like, it's not just specific to our industry, Lou.
Right. Yep.
And so, do your research.
There are options for other items that for storage. If you just got to look around a little bit, right?
I bet you there's vaults that have been around for 50 years, 100 years in some cases. And I'm not talking safety deposit boxes at banks. But once again, do your own research. Don't take anything for granted. And if you're someone who is or has been consigned into PWCC and you're nervous about what you're going to do moving forward, I wouldn't be nervous. I have heard there's been some nervousness for those who would like to know better what's going on. Hey, I have some items in the vault, or I have a balance with PWCC that I'm owed.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I mean, for whatever it's worth, my 2 cents, I would take the items out. I wouldn't like take the items out like my pants were on fire, but I wouldn't really wait. I would say, oh, you owe me $7,000? Awesome. I would hit the button where supposedly it's so easy to get paid. I'd hit the button. I would get paid. If I had 37 cards in the vault, sorry, I was trying to read Mark's comment for a minute. If I had 37 items in the vault, to me, unless I couldn't physically keep them in my home, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to hit send items to my home or send items to my address. Once again, this is no slight on PWCC. I'm trying to be real right now. And so there's not enough information out there that PWCC's come out that they've been able to share other than, hey, we're not happy with eBay is basically what they're saying. We're going to have something coming soon on our website. And we could show the clip here, but honestly, you don't need us to do that. It's all over the fucking internet.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to, and I consumed a lot of content over the last 24 hours. So I thought the interesting take, Lou, and I hope we're doing a good job of it today. Please, let me know, gang, is everyone was more so talking about the shill bidding and are they guilty? Are they not guilty? And I'm thinking, like, why is an individual, and by the way, I own 2 companies in space, a third now with card breaks, but like, why is an individual, should you be even worrying about that? Yeah. I'm not saying you should never do business with PWCC again. That's not what I'm saying. But like, take your emotion out of it. There's things that you can do within your control. Now, if over the next 24 hours, Lou, because ironic, we had our episode of Trading Card Therapy yesterday at 12:30, every Tuesday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. This news came out about 2 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So we just missed it.
Yep.
It would have been interesting to talk about the day of, but nonetheless, it gave me the day to consume all of the content out there. And everyone's very hung up on, did they do it? Didn't they do it?
Yep.
And listen, I'm not one of those where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't believe any of that, those sayings. I'm just saying using common sense. I don't have anything at the vault, and PWCC doesn't owe me $1 for full disclosure.
Yep.
So this isn't coming from a self-serving standpoint. What I'm saying is I've talked to enough people that have asked my opinion offline, and I wanted to verbally communicate with the community here today on LEIGHTON'S LOFT, and I'm sure I'll talk about it next week on Trading Card Therapy if it's still a relevant topic, and I'm sure it will be. But I just think that let the cards, play out, where they may, and you could always come back and do business with them later if that's what you'd like to do, Lou, right?
Yeah, I've had a lot of dealings with management at PWCC over the time, doing a couple shows here in the industry and talking with them. And here's what I'll say without getting, and it's not about judgment like you talked about. And I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing about PWCC, but Vintage Breaks and PWCC couldn't be 2 more different companies in the fact that PWCC is very clinical. They're a business,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
operate like a business, and they treat the industry like a business. It's a numbers game. And if that's your temperament, if that's the way you want to operate within the hobby, fine. They'll probably work out very well for you. I think there's a lot more passion in the industry, and there's a lot more, should be a lot more camaraderie, and there should be a lot more interaction, and a lot of. It's not a numbers game. This hobby is not a numbers game to most people in it. I don't think. So PWCC strikes me from an emotional, a passion standpoint. And listen, they're passionate guys, but they're passionate business guys. And again, if that's your sensibility for the hobby, fine. But if not, and I think many more people have a little bit more emotion involved in the hobby and want to deal with people who understand that and are invested in the hobby from a passion standpoint.
No, Lou, I'll tell you, that was incredible. Meaning, like, I think that you nailed it, and you're not actually saying that it's good or bad.
No.
You're just stating your opinion, right? You're not an owner of Vintage Breaks. You're not even technically an employee. You're more of like a consultant and a friend.
Yeah.
And you're just offering your honest assessment. And I'll tell you, and once again, this is just me being myself here, and that's the only thing that I'm able to do well. Their content that I see on Instagram comes across like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm saying it's wrong or right, but it's clinical. It's here's the dates for the auction. Here's blah, 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 blah. And I'll tell you, the industry as a whole, even some of the big boys are becoming a little bit for my liking because, listen, I'll tell you, when my wife's saying stuff, I know it's getting to be a lot because she's very supportive. I joke aside, but she's very supportive of what I do and how passionate I am. And she'll say to me, wait a minute, you're bidding in another auction tonight? I'm like, honey, I don't make the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, I know you just won stuff from that auction. I'm like, yeah, but they're just starting up another auction. And her point is like at some point it's not special anymore. Not to say there's not good stuff in it, not to say you don't want to win something, but I would tell you that for me, and this is why I love Julie. So I think I mentioned this the other night or last week on the show when I won stuff in REA. I come to bed really late, and she asked me, like, she's definitely more than half asleep.
Yeah.
And she's like, did you want anything for yourself? And she was asking me if I want anything for myself. And what she means is that I find anything cool, that I find anything that I'm passionate about.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, the numbers are what the numbers are. Meaning, yes, I bought sets out of REA. I bought unopened, but I also bought a Babe Ruth photo, which I'm super excited to show the community when I get it from REA. I bought a very, very historical ticket. I bought a Babe Ruth card. I bought some other things as well. Actually, I mentioned this on Trading Card Therapy yesterday. I think I spent about $72,000 across all those different efforts. And one of the things I'm thinking about doing, Lou, I don't know if we're going to do it live or if we're going to tape me and then edit it. I'm not sure yet. But I'll tell you, man, I had so much fun bidding in REA on Sunday. A little bit of it's stressful at the end because you don't know if you're going to win stuff or not.
I saw that on Card Talk Therapy. I think it's a great idea.
How great is that? No one's doing it.
A watch party of you at the auction. That would be awesome.
And you're like watching me bid fucking 20,000. I'm the under, like, oh my God, is Leighton going to bid again? Like, how much fun would that be?
It'd be a blast.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do. But I mean, I felt it on Sunday. Like, for example, the few items.
You realize Julie will be able to tune in, though, right? You realize that?
No, I know, and so that's why listen. I'm tactical as well. Maybe not the way Julie is, but I'm tactical as well. And so, anyway, nonetheless,
well, Kevin jumps my point that I was going to make next is that PWCC is kind of an invested type of business. There's an investment aspect of the hobby, and that can be very clinical, and it's every dollar and low commissions and trying to buy at the best price and sell at the best price and things like that. And again, I don't know if it's good. I don't think it's better or worse. I think it's why you're here and what your sensibilities are of how you want to deal with this stuff. If you're an investor, then again, you're scratching for every dollar on both ends and you want low commissions and things like that. It's one way to go, and Vintage Breaks appeals to that. But I think most people here at Vintage Breaks and most people in the hobby have some percentage of collecting and investing. And the investing
I agree.
is a whole nother business.
I agree, and I would tell you that when I do buy an item for vintage breaks, if it's a set, for example, versus a pack, I absolutely know that a pack is like the foundation and the lifeline of vintage breaks, and a set I can kind of buy anytime, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I'm always willing to overpay and or be more aggressive for something that's unopened because that's a finite resource.
Right.
Versus a set, like I'm fairly certain I'll be able to buy another one of again.
Yeah, but and of course, an unopened pack is opportunity too. There's opportunity cost in there, and there's entertainment cost in there, and there's a whole different feel to it than buying a set. Yeah, you can go out and buy a set. You bought the set, but man, winning winning that card in a break or pulling that card in a break, man, how much fun is that? And just the anticipation of buying the slot, waiting for the break, and then just watching the break with it. I mean, there's a lot of you get a lot of entertainment bang for your buck there.
I think so too, and obviously as we've mentioned, here today and in the past, our community is not just made up of customers who've actually bought something with dollars. Some people are just here for the camaraderie. Other folks are here for the freebies. Other folks are here for a hybrid of all of it together, and we can appreciate that because we've all been. Let's be honest, right? Like we've all been that role in our life, whether it be younger or last year or last week, yesterday. And so, I always say this, and it's not just in here, but and I'll stay away from bringing up Julie in this regard. But like no judgments here, meaning like no gossip. Like if you want to gossip, you can do that, just not in our community. And that's why I didn't really take the time to talk about PWCC the way that I've been hearing it discussed, which is a lot of almost like, hey, these are our theories
Yeah.
about what could have happened, and what do you think really happened, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, no one's going to know soon, and unless you're an equity investor or
Right.
you're an employee of the company, even if you're a customer, which I get, that's why I took this angle. That's why I was trying to share with you, my perspective on it.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have to say about that. But I do have some other fun stuff to discuss, today. And it's interesting because these I got done in cooperation. I think it was Fitterman Sports and my buddy Jason from Tia. Jason had Pete Rose over at his house. And I, of course, said, wait a minute, I got a few Pete Rose rookies.
Look at those.
That if you don't mind, could you ask Mr. Rose to sign for me? He might remember me from such hits as I opened the 1970 Top Solo pack with him,
Yep.
and he asked me why I was fucking sweating.
You were too.
I was, but
Yep.
I was in the proximity of greatness.
Yep.
And listen, you keep it real. It was getting hot in here. So it's kind of cool because not only do I appreciate getting these Pete Rose rookies signed, but we just bought a collection. I believe this collection is from someone in New Jersey, and we'll absolutely have enough time to discuss it. This is only a portion of it. I believe there is more.
Jim and Kevin were talking about the quality of set breaks and how fun it is to get involved.
Yeah, no, I think set breaks in particular, and once again, I don't want to make this an infomercial for vintage breaks.
That's the point.
But
I think.
but I think that in regards to set breaks, what's really nice is if that's your cup of tea, it's a wonderful proposition and it's a wonderful value play because your downside is. I mean, take for example, 68 Topps baseball set break. We just put it up yesterday. It's $12.50 a spot.
Yep.
We literally sold over 100 spots in the first day, which isn't a lot of money, Lou.
Yep.
Right? But it's a lot of spots. And it just goes to show you that we could have a 1968 top set break at 35 a spot.
Yep.
At 100 a spot, just depending on the grade. But at 12.50 a spot, there's a butt for every seat. You could still win a Nolan Ryan rookie. I think it's VG. The bench rookie happens to be very nice in the set. The mantle was, I think, lower grade. But at the end of the day, if you were going to buy a 68 Topps Common, excuse me, delivered to your home, you're looking at $3 to $5 for pretty much any card.
Yep.
So for the difference, that delta of $7.50, you're going to now have a chance at knowing Ryan and Mickey Mantle. And, whether it be you're collecting it with your son or daughter, if you're doing it for your own sanity or break from life, or you're just a true collector. You're actually working on a 68 set. What's up, Lee Chow? If you're just working on a 68 set, it's a really fun way to build a set, especially in the beginning, Lou. Like if you have a lot of slots that you need for a set,
Yep.
it's a great way to like, you know what? I didn't buy my Ryan rookie yet. I'm going to take a shot for $25 and buy 2 spots. And maybe I get lucky. And you know what? I didn't get Nolan Ryan, but I got a Hank Aaron All-Star and I got a Ken McMullen card.
Yeah, but look at all the entertainment value for $25 or $12.50 if you
That's
want to go one slot. I mean, you get that
it's
anticipation, you get fun, you get to hang out with the community again and friends.
I
And
say
watch
this
work.
I say this to my friends all the time at a restaurant. They'll say, "You know what? You can make that so and such dish at home for like half the price." I
Yeah.
said, "Sure." But that's assuming I have the ingredients, which my time is valuable. So I either have to go to the supermarket and buy it, and if you order it and get the ingredients sent to your house, I hate that. My wife's chops and the whole thingy. It's I don't mind ordering food to the home. The
Yep.
supermarket delivering in the home is like a whole other. I
Yeah.
can't let go of that. I go to the supermarket as much as I can. I love it.
Yeah, I do. I kind of enjoy it too. I would never do
Of
delivery.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listen to music. I mean, if I go with Crosby, we have an adventure. If I go myself, I listen to music. I'm like bopping around the supermarket. It's hysterical.
Is Crosby
Um,
pulling stuff off the shelves? Is he one of those guys?
he doesn't pull it off the shelf and throw it in, but
Yep.
he'll get very excited and he'll ask me. So, I mean, I have to say I'm a softie, but like, unless the thing's like made of like straight sugar, which to him is crack, it's not good. Like I'm willing to give it a chance.
Yep.
So anyway, I brought up the Pete Rose rookies not only because I got them back, but because there's a Pete Rose rookie that headlines this collection that we just bought from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to run through some of the graded cards. There is an ungraded portion of the collection. There's actually a near 1963 set, some other really fun stuff. But I'm just going to run through a couple of the highlights if I can.
Okay. Would you do you ever sell those set breaks? You have a split. Some of them are graded, some of them are ungraded. Would you ever
Yes.
sell slots for graded slots and ungraded slots and divide up the set break that way?
Say that again, Lou?
Would you ever sell if you have a split set? Some of it is graded and some of it isn't. Would you ever sell slots for graded cards? Just get into the graded part of the set break, or an ungraded one, sell them separately.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't really thought about that. I think kind of what makes the beauty of the set and the set break is that you're like, I'm like a pack, right? Like I love the mystery of the pack.
Yep.
But I also understand for some people, like, not knowing there's going to be a star rookie is not only troublesome, but it could be tough on the wallet.
Yep.
And so that's what the value proposition with the set is. And so what I would tell you is like, hey, I'm open to anything, but my gut tells me I probably wouldn't, because you're now taking like the
Right.
cream and the cherries of the set and you're saying, hey, we're going to put all in this group. And then not to say there isn't anything left over that's good, but like, I don't know. I think it works better as a unit, because at least
Yeah.
you can conceptualize to yourself, you know what? This is only 1 in 600 chance for the 68 top set. But I already know it's going to cost me $5 to get a common in my house delivered. Now
Yep.
I'm paying $12.50. The difference
Yep.
is $7.50. Like, let me take my shot. And so what happens, Lou, is if we divide that up, now there's going to be a different price structure for the graded versus the ungraded portion potentially.
Yeah. Because the better cards are going to be graded, right? Generally speaking.
Generally, yes. I mean, it
Yep.
doesn't always work like that, but generally.
Yep.
Thanks, Jim. So this is the first and definitely the best card in the collection. I realize I may not be able to see it great today because of my camera. This is a 1963 Topps Pete Rose rookie. Happens to be fairly well centered, which I was pumped about.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
This is a tough high number out of the 63 top set. Clemente, PSA 7.
Love that card.
So do I. I realized that I really do like the 63 set because Koufax is coming up, and PSA 7 or not, like I just really like the pose. I like the way the card hits me.
Koufax is a movie star, isn't he? It's like
Oh,
every
yeah.
card he has that gravitas of like a movie star.
Here's Willie Mays, who just looks like he's ready to go play ball. So once again, these are some cards. They're gonna they're the highlights of a collection that we just purchased today. Duke Snider, Lou Brock. Oh, this is a really cool card. This is a Lou Brock second year. PSA 7. I always like this card.
Lou Brockett's a Cub. Wow. I don't even
Yeah.
think of him as a Cub. It's funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. And this is cool. So not necessarily William McCovey being cool, but how interesting is this? So obviously the family collected, and they were buying cards from the old school teletrade. I
Oh,
remember buying cards from teletrade through SED, like I think as like under 17, and I had to like tell my dad, hey, I need you to ship out a check for me. He says, what'd you buy? I'm like, baseball cards. I'm like, just send my check. I need my cards.
that's unbelievable. Yeah.
So this was on the back of the card along with a price sticker. Excuse me, a price sticker, $105,
Yeah.
$155, $105. This is one of my favorite cards in the collection. It actually happens to be fairly valuable, a little bit more valuable than I thought. But a 53 Bowman black and white is one of the keys to the set. Gorgeous shot of Casey Stengel, manager.
With the facade
I
at
really
Yankee
like that card.
Stadium.
Yeah. As I'm saying, that backdrop is great, Lou.
Yeah.
Really, it's like it's majestic. So I know it's a little tough to see with the glare. Hopefully, oh, there you go, a little light. How you doing? They
Wouldn't
had
you
a
love to have a
nice.
beer with Casey Stengel? Wouldn't you love to just
Oh, are you kidding
be
me?
one of those
Him
guys?
or Yogi Berra? I'll take him or Yogi.
Yep.
So here are some 62s.
Yogi has some stories, I'll bet.
Yep. Led by a 62 Yogi. That's really nice. SGC 7.5. I dig it. Some 59. So this was interesting. So I thought this would make a good topic. We have a few minutes here. There's a few other cards in the collection that were graded by what I like to call lesser known grading companies. I used to call them inferior grading companies, but then I realized that for legal reasons, you're better off just saying lesser known grading companies, right, Lou?
Yes. Fair enough.
So here it is, a CTA graded. This will make a fun post for us, Lou, on social. 62 tops, CTA 7, Manager's Dream featuring Mansell and Mays. Now, oftentimes I'll find with inferior or lesser known grading companies,
yes,
the cards are either overgraded or or like they're authentic, like they're color added or trimmed or what have you. This card actually seemed fine to me, but it's overgraded by, in my estimation, 2 grades. The card is X, but it's actually in a 7 holder. And the thing that's funny that I remember about CTA is I think that the C standard for computer, and it was a computer. It was like years ago, way before. And I'm thinking like, I don't know what computer you used, but that card's not. If you wanted to be generous, maybe X Mint, but it's not. I mean, not according to the standards today and this left edge situation. I mean, the card's X.
It's
Believe me, I want it to be near
tilted,
mint.
right?
For me.
It looks like it's tilted as well as off center.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's definitely askew.
Yeah. Askew.
So the last card is this 1959 Topps Yogi Berra CSA 9. That's right, not PSA. CS.
Look at that. Oh, did you mute yourself, or we run into some trouble here? There we go. Did you mute yourself? I think we've got a mute there. Unmute. Oh, your mic disconnected, so you're going to have to plug in again. Or take your headphones out. All right. We lost Leighton for the minute. We'll wait for him to reconnect here. While we get going, let's see. Do you take cards from lesser known grading companies and crack them and submit to more widely? Oh, that's a great question. Kevin, that's a great question. We'll Leighton reconnects. We'll get him. We'll ask him that one. Waiting for Leighton to reconnect here. See, this is what happens when you have the phone involved, right? Sometimes the phone is a little less reliable than otherwise. So, Joseph, what you're doing, you're a little bit late to the show today. We can't tolerate being late. You have to be on time. Stick around afterwards on Vintage Breaks for more breaking. There's a trivia question. I left a trivia question for J5 that you can win a prize to. there and watch the breaks for the rest of the night. Leighton's trying to reconnect here. We'll see if we can get this going. Am I going to come out to the Beckett Summit in Vegas? Boy, I would like to, Cody. That would be great, wouldn't it? I don't know if Vegas is on the docket this year. My daughter's getting married. She's getting married in Ireland, so I've already got an Ireland trip lined up for early next year. So we're trying to straighten that out. Here we go. Let's see if we got Leighton. Back in?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. The wife called, and all of a sudden, all hell break loose.
The mic
But that's, what happens sometimes when the wife calls. Yep, that's what I think.
All right, we had a couple questions.
I'm still showing off this Yogi Berra, and yeah, so basically, when I buy these cards, I simply just look at the card itself. I ignore the grade, and I'll let them know what I think the card is, and if they want to take it back because they think the card's worth more, certainly, not offended. But that's how I handle generally, cards like that.
In your inventory, would you ever crack that and get it graded by PSA? And
oh, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, before things cost $250 to grade a card, potentially, these days it might just sell as is, unless it's actually grade high.
Tyler says, if you can evaluate condition of the card and get it at a good price, I find a lot of value in purchasing cards from lesser known grading companies. And he cracks them and resubmits them. So if you're good at evaluating the card, you can see whether obviously, you'd lean that up against the price and see how it fits.
Yep. Absolutely. So anyway, I know it was a little choppy for the last minute or two. I just got another call. But I hope everyone, got value from today's episode. And appreciated this cool little collection that we just bought. That was just some of the highlights. There's some more graded cards. There's also hundreds of ungraded, including a starter set of 63 tops. But in terms of the trivia question will be on our YouTube stream on Vintage Breaks. We'll be giving away a 2018 Topps Chrome Sapphire box spot. So good luck to you all. But Lou, any final remarks today? Because I know we covered a lot of information.
Rocco says, all right, Leighton, enough with the cliffhanger, the 59 Barry CSA. What do you think? I have a 55 Mantle CSA 9. What can I expect?
Oh, tell them to email me a photo. I'll tell them what I think it's good, what it's worth, what it'll grade.
And you got a top Willie Mays for $50 because it was in a BCCG holder.
Yeah, you can buy things in a BCCG holder on occasion, do all.
Okay,
absolutely.
We want to tell everybody about Card Talk Therapy, which is Tuesdays at 12:30, which is on the Vintage Breaks YouTube and Vintage Breaks Facebook page as well. That was fun. You're on the air almost as much as I am now on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, it's a lot of action, Lou. So yeah, they can find us there. They can also find us on the Just Collect YouTube channel, youtube.com/justcollect. And so thanks again for joining us today here on Leighton's Loft. You can find us every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And for the second episode of Trading Card Therapy, you can join us next Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Lou, I'm sure you do the same thing. It's probably hard to keep your time straight.
Oh God, I do call letters on other stations, and it's like I've done that more. I've put money in that jar a couple of times when I've called the call letter on a different station that I'm on. But yeah,
Lou, last night I thought we had our new letter rip show that we do with Drew and Chris Gilmore on Wednesdays. I thought it was last night, and the reason why I thought it was last night because every time before last week, I know that if I have the loft, I do letter rip.
Yep.
I forgot it was Trading Card Therapy. So no, it was a little bit crazy.
Just get it in head. You get a lot going on too, even beyond all that. But yeah. All right, so Card Talk Therapy Tuesday.
So anyway, folks,
12:30, and then us Wednesdays at 4:30 here on the Loft. And by the way, stay tuned on the Vintage Breaks YouTube and Facebook pages for breaks all night tonight. A lot of stuff going on.
Thanks for joining us.